I hate to break it to you, but legendary gear simply isn't the best in Shadows. In today's follow-up video, I'm gonna share more reasons why you want to avoid using it, and more importantly, how you can start target farming the best gear in the game, with much higher stat rolls and also better baked in engravings. These advanced tips and tricks will help you collect and build the strongest setups in the game, including my one-shot Naoe and Deadliest Katana build. Easily triple your damage output and start one-shotting bosses, which is super satisfying to do, so let's get right to it. I want to quickly take the opportunity to say a massive thanks to every single one of you guys for recently joining the channel and sharing your sweet feedback on my previous videos. This is literally what keeps me going day and night with new projects. As usual, timestamps can be found in the description, while I recommend you to check out all chapters to not miss out on vital info. The build which I used during the intro and which you can see on screen right now is my Deadliest Katana build. It makes short work of Samurai Daisho and high value targets like Guardians, as you can see, literally one-shotting them with barely any effort. And all the gear which I use for it is exclusively epic except the headband, as I haven't found a better replacement for it yet. If interested, you can find the build in the top right of the screen, but let me quickly explain one more time why you want to focus on epics and not legendaries, as these simply aren't the best items in the game. The most important reason to farm legendary equipment is because it comes with legendary engravings. These can be put on any item. Both legendary and epic equipment always comes with a double engraving slot. The problem though with legendaries is that they have this hard baked in engraving you cannot get rid of. Of course, they are necessary to get certain ones to increase your damage output or trigger special utility effects like the instantly charged posture attack after a vault, but they're not going to be life-changing in terms of dealing more damage with your build. Right here, we also have an insane stat difference. A legendary Steel Blossom of 45 doesn't beat the weapon DPS of this Divine Katana of 42. Check out that difference. It also comes with the instantly charged posture attack after a vault though, which I optionally placed on this weapon, so we pretty much get the same result. The only difference though is that this one has a 20% armor piercing, and this one comes with 30% crit chance when hitting vulnerable enemies. A much better weapon. While all the epics in the game can be found with that optional engraving, if you are lucky. And this is what happened yesterday. Check it out. I found an Ardent Katana of the Monk with this one already baked in, on which I added an extra engraving, another plus 24% damage when hitting these targets. So you can tell that this weapon is gonna hit so much harder compared to this legendary one, even though some of the stat rolls are higher. If we quickly compare some headgear with legendary engravings, vault over enemies while sprinting, adrenaline chunks on affliction buildup, restore HP, all this doesn't really sound relevant for dealing damage except for the Yurei Walker hood. 2 segments removed on assassination in the Shadows. This situation is super rare. Most of the times, health segment removal on running assassinate is gonna be better, or when throwing kunai. This one though, with a golden stat roll on critical strike chance, comes with a +1 health segment removal on any type of assassination. This is the type of gear you want to focus on when building a one-shot assassination build, like the one I shared earlier, can be found in the top right of the screen, for which I also use the tools Masterguide, throw a kunai at the closest enemy after an assassination. But if we quickly visit the forge and engrave some light armor, check out this one, plus 50% damage on next hit after using abilities, on which we can also put this exact legendary engraving after we've unlocked it. There is never a situation where using 2 legendary engravings is gonna be better, especially not because most of those epic ones come with damage increments. And the final reason is this legendary engraving placed on a non-legendary item after we found it, which is the Ani's Fury engraving, a plus 15% damage per non-legendary gear equipped. If you do that 15 times 6, that's a 90% damage increment. But let's go over what I think are the best engravings for both weapons and armor to find the best gear for any type of build. If we take a terrible weapon as example, we can check out all the different engravings that are interesting to use. Specifically focus on the damage tab, as these are going to be the best for weapons themselves. Damage with posture attacks, pretty low. Damage when hitting multiple enemies. This one can be interesting for Kusarigama builds, where you always hit multiple enemies with your swinging around. The plus 24% damage when hitting vulnerable enemies is probably one of my favorites because it boosts any type of damage. Backstab damage, ability damage, posture damage. Doesn't matter as long as your enemies are vulnerable, which can be done with many different ways, which I explain in my build videos. 30% crit chance when hitting vulnerable enemies, also amazing, as of course when you're critting enemies, that can literally double your damage or triple, quadruple it, depending on how much critical strike damage you build. I was lucky enough to find this Ardent Katana with an already built-in 30% crit chance when hitting these targets, so adding the secondary damage when hitting vulnerable enemies made it, in my opinion, the hands-down best weapon you can find. And later in this video, I'm gonna show you tips on how to do exactly that. On Tantos, I was able to find some pretty interesting baked-in engravings as well, plus 20% critical strike damage with a melee weapon. So of course the Tanto with a very high vulnerability damage stat roll right here as well. Crit damage with abilities, crit damage when HP is full. All this can make your build super interesting. 12% with posture attacks, that's pretty bad. But right here, plus 100% armor piercing on critical hits. If you have a very high crit chance, this is gonna break enemies like crazy. I haven't talked much about Kusarigamas. Sorry about that, guys. I simply haven't had the chance yet to build something interesting with it. But trust me, my next build is probably gonna be Kusarigama bleed build-up. These sound super interesting. Armor damage when HP is full. Nope, that's not going to be nice. More armor damage when critical hitting. That's what you want to focus on, I guess. 600% affliction buildup with posture attacks. That is what I want to focus on with my next build. If we found a bleed buildup on this one as well, that could have been devastating for our foes. Epic armor can also be much better than legendary, so let's also cover those engravings, what I think are the best ones to check out. This is a trinket I'm currently using with a 100% armor piercing on critical hits. I almost always crit, so this destroys armor of enemies. I of course also added that 15% bonus per non-legendary item equipped, literally doubling my damage output. All the damage increments when dodging, deflecting, using tools or killing aren't really relevant in my opinion. What I think though are interesting ones to check out are the plus 50% damage on next hit after using abilities, which you most of the times use when engaging combat, like with the tidal wave on this specific build. On this piece of armor, the Warrior Anamusha Kosore, I found the posture damage as first baked in engraving, so we can add whatever we want on the second. Right here, also 600% affliction buildup with posture attacks. Very interesting, you can actually find these types of engravings on armor. While if we quickly have a look at our headgear right here, the reason why I haven't changed it to epic yet is because I didn't find a nice baked-in engraving on them. Guys, let me know in the comments which ones you find most often or which favorite ones you've unlocked so far. I seem to almost always find the health segment removal engravings, like the one with assassinations during the night, any type of assassination with kunai. So the dream would be to find just any type of headgear with specifically increasing your damage. If you manage to find something amazing, let us know in the comments. Even better, share a screenshot of it on our Discord, which you can find in the description. But that pretty much sums up what I think are the best engravings for both weapons and armor from the mid till late game. It can be pretty challenging though to get your hands on these god tier items, especially because they don't appear at a fixed location in the world, like legendaries do. The first method would be to take out high value targets or stronger enemies, like Ronin, Samurai Daisho, or even elites, which actually respawn every single season. One of my favorite farm spots would be in Harima, specifically the Imeji Kakurega. Check out the little POI Kudera mention, as this exact location is where you will always find one of these big guys. So we charge into battle with our Tidal Wave ability, make our enemy vulnerable while we're at it, followed up with a posture attack. Wow, easily erase him from the battlefield. Anyways, there you go, an epic drop, which is always the case on higher levels. I think starting on level 30, only a couple meters south of it right now, we also have a vendor, another method on how you can acquire these items. This time we have some katanas with 60% crit damage when hitting multiple enemies. Can actually be a nice baked in engraving for Kusarigamas. Critical damage per adrenaline chunk filled, that's actually a very nice one, because if you have 3 chunks filled, that's almost a 50% damage increment bonus. So we're gonna actually purchase this one, possibly use it in a future build. 100% armor piercing on critical hits also sounds interesting. I just really like to browse through all the options right here, as sometimes you can find some top tier stuff right here. The Tools Specialist Mask, many people wanted to have or asked about in my previous videos, can be found right here if you are lucky. Wow, look at this roll, Shrouded Shinobi Robes with plus 50% damage on next hit after using abilities. I already had the robes which I purchased, but right now a golden stat roll on HP. So it's gonna be much better when we also add the secondary engraving on it. Unfortunately, most of the times these vendors won't come with the perfect item for your build. And in that case, you can't really just go from one vendor to the next, as they all come with pretty much the exact same stock. Since we've already purchased some items, we can quickly confirm this by going over them. 2 katanas, 1 kusarigama. You can always remember exactly what type of engravings they came with, but also 1 blue with a price of 896. If we quickly travel to the other side of the world and check out this gear vendor, see, he comes with the exact same items. So please don't waste your time by visiting every single one of them. Instead, what you should do, open the map and check out your seasonal clock. After a seasonal change, you can do this manually. All the scout points you've used up will restore. You will get those resources, of course, after tagging them. But POIs will also refresh. Elites will respawn, so you can take them out once again with a chance of finding a nice item. But you can also revisit gear vendors. And right now they're gonna come with very different wares. But to save you a lot more time, what's even more interesting is that you don't have to wait for a season to change. Instead, especially when farming both chests and taking out elites, what you can do right before you take the loot is save your progress. Then, after you've opened up the chest or taken out the bad guy and you don't find something relevant, simply load the manual save and try it again. At a certain point, you will find something super interesting which can be relevant for your build. Constantly having to reload for one single item can be pretty tedious though, especially after you found something nice, saved your progress. You will no longer be able to pick up that same chest. So you want to have more efficient and less tedious methods. That's where I want to say a quick thanks to Tinu Chazland7244, as he shared an amazing strategy for this a couple days ago on my previous video. This strategy does require some setup, but trust me, it's gonna be very much worth your time in the long run. If we quickly have a look at details in the hideout menu, you can see that the higher the level, the more bonuses we get. Specifically, the level 8 bonus. Available scouts can bring gear at season's end, which means after some time, when you revisit your stables and go to this exact location right here, this is where you can pick up some sweet rewards. And most of the times, there's gonna be like 2 or 3 epics inside this chest, which you shouldn't open just yet. First, also save your progress, then start loading the chests, and as long as you don't find something relevant, you can just keep loading that manual save until you do find something nice. And this is where I got lucky after a pretty short amount of time trying. First, I found an amazing stat roll on a long katana for Yasuke, which was pretty annoying. The 30% crit chance when hitting vulnerable enemies, that's the one I was searching for. But after a couple reloads, I found the exact same one 3 times. The exact same roll on this ardent katana of the monk. The god tier roll I was waiting for to pop up that basically makes this build shine. But I think for specifically armor, the best way to get your hands on it would be to check out gear vendors from time to time. While you want to kind of combine this with taking out the elites inside POIs or points of interest, as these will also respawn. 4 elites can be found very close to Kakoregas to farm. The first one I already covered in the Kudera Mansion. We also have one at the Lumber Isle in Amagasaki. The third, which I like to check out, is the one in Sakai Money Changer District. And there is also an elite or brute in Mount Congo. So if you combine all these strategies, I'm sure you're gonna be able to find some amazing epics in a fairly short amount of time. If you did, let me know in the comments down below and which engravings you found on them. I'm super curious what kind of build you guys are rolling with right now. Something else is also super welcome in the comments down below. Would mean the world to me if you can spare 1 second of your time. Hit that like button. Right now though, it is 4 AM out. Plenty more content on the channel. I'll check you guys in the next video or live stream. Take care. Peace.